Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Tuesday, April 26th, 2022, and we are live. The call-in number is 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right, so we have a jam-packed show, and also we'll give you some more information about the One Africa Power and Unity Conference coming up Saturday, April 30th, and Sunday, May 1st at the Doubletree Hotel here in Detroit, and I'll be there, and many of the scholars who we've had on the show the past couple of weeks will be there as well. Okay, so I want to follow up on a story that we did a couple of days ago. Actually, last week, I think it was April 20th. We did a story dealing with congressional districts. Civil rights groups filed lawsuit over Florida Congressional map. Civil rights groups filed lawsuit over Florida Congressional map signed by Governor Ron DeSantis that eliminates two black districts. And we talked about this last week. It was Friday. Let me see. We talked about this on a Sunday show because this article came out Friday, April 22nd. We talked about this on a Sunday show. And when I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, we discussed this as well. And I did not get a chance to share that segment from Roland Martin Unfiltered. So we're going to, we'll talk about it today. And this, once again, is an example of how elections have consequences. And unfortunately, so many of our people don't understand history. And Florida was the first state to have poll taxes going back to 1889. 1889, Florida was the first state to have poll taxes. Then in 1890, the state of Mississippi instituted poll taxes at the Mississippi State Convention, where they rewrote the state constitution. And then the other former Confederate states, South Carolina, 1895, Louisiana, 1898, Alabama, 1901, Georgia, North Carolina, things like this. These other former Confederate states copied what Mississippi did, and it was known as the Mississippi Plan. But it started in 1889 in Florida, okay? So we're going to talk some about that again today, and I'll let you hear the segment from Roland Martin Unfiltered where we talked about this. Then also on yesterday's show, Monday's show, we talked about the lawsuit that attorney Ben Crump has filed against Wells Fargo. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump says Wells Fargo's discriminatory loan practices is killing black opportunity. And this dealt with a story that we talked about here on this show back in March of 2022 that dealt with Wells Fargo only approving 47% of the home refinance applications from African Americans. Okay, only 47% were approved. Well, we know that on Monday, April 25th, there was a press conference that was held in Atlanta, and we're going to share some more of that press conference today. Also, after yesterday's show, I did some more searching on this story. And some various local news organizations covered this story. Okay, and there was one story. There was one WSB TV out of Atlanta covered this story. So I'm going to let you hear some of their coverage of this as well. I still haven't seen a lot of national stories on this. New York Times, Washington Post, things like this. But I saw some local coverage on this story. So we'll talk about that again on today's show. And we have an update for you as well. But this goes back to the story from Bloomberg. This goes back to the story from Bloomberg, March 11th, 2022. Wells Fargo rejected half of its, let's see, pull it up here. Wells Fargo rejected half of its Black applicants in mortgage refinance boom. Okay. And Wells Fargo was the only lender that turned down more African American applicants than it approved. Okay, they only approved 47% of the applicants who were trying to refinance their home mortgages. Okay, so we'll talk about this. 47% and compared to 72% of white homeowners. They were the only lender who turned down more African Americans who applied to refinance their mortgages than they actually approved. So we'll talk about this today. Then late today, this story came out. I saw this story from businessinsider.com. And this deals with President Joe Biden and student loan forgiveness. Businessinsider.com is reporting, and I'm going to pull this article up here. Businessinsider.com is reporting on a meeting that took place today with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Let me see. Let's go to this one here. Biden reportedly told lawmakers he's looking for ways to forgive most or all federal debt. Biden reportedly told lawmakers he's looking for ways to forgive most or all federal debt. And this came out of a 90-minute meeting that President Joe Biden had with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. CBS News reported on this today. Businessinsider.com picked up this story. So we're going to talk about this as well later in the show. Okay, because I knew something was going to break on this. I've been following this story as I have other things dealing with the administration. And one of the things that doesn't get really talked about, and when I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered a couple of weeks ago, we were scheduled to talk about it, but we just were able to spend a few minutes on it because sometimes we have to cover breaking news and different things like this. But did you hear that the Biden-Harris administration unveiled government-wide action plans on racial equality? Did you hear about that? Okay. I saw very little coverage about this in mainstream media. Thegrio.com has an article on it because they're African American owned and operated. And a lot of the, even though half their articles they pick up from the Associated Press, which I understand because you have to pay people to write articles. But a lot of this information dealing with how the policies from the Biden-Harris administration are helping African Americans, a lot of this you don't see in mainstream media, okay, which is one of the reasons why African American owned and operated media is so important, and one of the reasons why it's important to support the African History Network show, okay, because this type of information that I deal with you won't find in a lot of other places. This article right here from the Grio, and okay, that's not the one I want. Let me pull this up here because I have so many articles bookmarked. We pull this one up here, and we're going to post this on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. We're going to try to squeeze in a little bit of this information today. If not today, then we'll get it in Wednesday or Thursday. On Wednesday's show, we're going to be joined once again by one of my teachers, Professor Kabahaya Wafakamene. You've seen him in the Hidden Colors documentaries. You've seen him in 1804. You've seen him, he and Professor Small and myself were in the documentary, Elementary Genocide Part 3. I'm in 7 documentaries. Actually, I don't talk about a whole lot, but I'm in 7 documentaries. We're in Elementary Genocide Part 3 together from director Raheem Shabazz. But we'll have Professor Kabahai Watha Khamenei is going to be one of the presenters at the One Africa Power and Unity Conference taking place here in Detroit, Saturday 30th through Sunday, May 1st. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the information there, how you can get tickets. If you can't attend in person, you can watch online. Okay, they have live streaming of it. All right, so this article here, and Biden-Harris administration unveils government-wide action plans on racial equality. Did you hear about this? Now, this came out, what was the date on this? Let's see. Just came out about a week or so ago. And it's about a week or so ago that it came out. But this deals with following up on an executive order that President Biden did on day one. We've talked about the executive order here on the show before. There were 10 executive orders that President Biden did on January 20th, 2021, when he took the oath of office. This article is from April 14th, 2022. Biden-Harris administration unveils government-wide action plans on racial equality. I know we're coming up here on a break, but let me squeeze this in. The GRIO spoke with agency leaders on ways their departments plan to fulfill President Biden's executive order to ensure government services are distributed equitably. The Biden-Harris administration unveiled on Thursday, so this was April 14th, a massive government-wide action plan to advance racial equity across 90 federal agencies with more than 300 strategies and commitments laid out by government leaders. Okay, the announcements from the dozens of federal agencies are the start of fulfilling an executive order signed by President Joe Biden on the first day in office to advance racial equity across the entire federal government. The simple Simon-ass people that you watch on social media that run their mouths about the Biden-Harris administration. Did they tell you about this? We'll do all this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Jeanette Davis is a well-established author with 6 published books. Black Survival in White America from Past History to the Next Century was published in 1995, and it delves into the history of African Americans before slavery up to contemporary times. The Great Divide Between Blacks and Whites was released in 2008, and her autobiography, Black Just Like My Mama, was published in 2010. Soulful Journey, The Business of Beings, was released in December 2021, and her 2 latest books, Echoes from the Heart, Love Throws Poetry, and Master Being Human, were both published in January of 2022. Jeanette Davis' writings delve deeply into the psyche of Black people from ancient to contemporary times. She cuts no corners and leaves no stones unturned in relating truth, letting the chips fall where they may on both African and European doorsteps. Order Jeanette Davis's books today at Amazon.com. Search for Jeanette Davis and get to know her work today.
In the African History Network show, we deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Unfortunately, many people confuse what racism is. Racism is a power structure. It was laws and policies that put us in this predicament. It's going to be laws and policies that take us out. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the compass of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know.
We have it all on 910 AM Superstation.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. Okay, we're going to go to clip number 1 here in just a second, Shakita. So if we revisit this story that we talked about on our Sunday show, when I had Dr. Linda Jeffries and Professor James Small on, so the CNN has this piece: civil rights groups file lawsuit over Florida congressional maps signed by DeSantis. Civil rights groups file lawsuit over Florida congressional map signed by Governor Ron DeSantis. A coalition of civil rights groups has filed the first lawsuit in Florida against the recently enacted congressional map put forward by GOP Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican, that eliminates two districts represented by Black Democrats, while giving Republicans the advantage in as many as 20 of 28 seats. In as many as 20 of 28 seats. The GOP-controlled Florida state legislature approved the map in a special session this week. This came out Friday, April 22nd. Along party lines, Governor Ron DeSantis said he signed the map into law on Friday. Now, I want to go to clip number 1 here. This is from, this is out of Florida. This is, clip number 1 out of Florida. Let's go to clip number 1, Shakita. Okay, civil rights groups file lawsuit over Florida congressional map signed by DeSantis. Okay, and the lawsuit filed in state court in Leon County alleges that the map is a Republican gerrymander and violates the Fair District Amendment. Okay, violates the Fair District Amendment of the Florida State Constitution by diminishing the power of Black voters. The plaintiffs are asking the court to rule that the map or individual districts violate the Fair Districts Amendment and to order the adoption of a new congressional map. The challenge was filed by several Florida voters, as well as the League of Women Voters Florida, Black Voters Matter, Florida Rising, and Equal Ground Florida. Do we have clip number 1? Okay.
Developing tonight, a flurry of new laws that will have a major impact on Central Florida and the state as a whole. They have now been signed by the governor.
Surrounded by supporters in South Florida, Governor DeSantis signs multiple bills, including one that restricts the way race-related issues can be taught in schools and in the workplace.
The other would end Disney's control of Reedy Creek and other special districts across the state.
But we start with Florida's new congressional map, which the governor says he also signed today. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Matt Austin.
And I'm Lisa Bell. Opponents have vowed to take their fight to court after state lawmakers approved the redistricting map during a special session this week. It was redrawn by Governor DeSantis after he vetoed the original proposal from state legislators. The governor's map would increase Florida's GOP representation in Congress and dismantle two districts that are now held by Black members of Congress. DeSantis and other GOP lawmakers claim the map is neutral on race and party affiliation.
Members, we have full recess.
Democratic House members think differently, taking control of the House floor yesterday to delay the vote, calling the new boundaries racist. The bill ultimately passed, but they're vowing to fight it tooth and nail. News 6's Amanda Castro is here with more on the lawsuit that was just filed.
Governor Ron DeSantis signed his congressional map into law, and it's already facing legal challenges. Several voting rights groups announcing a lawsuit on Friday, saying the map approved by the House and Senate during this week's special session doesn't comply with state redistricting laws.
What you have seen from the governor has been thug-like behavior. He is clearly violating the law.
State Senator Randolph Bracey, surrounded by fellow members of the Legislative Black Caucus, denouncing the map, calling it unconstitutional, saying the map changes 2 majority black districts, District 5 in North Florida and District 10 in Central Florida. State Representative Camilla Brown says the map reduces black representation from 4 congressional seats to 2.
What we're doing by diminishing it is really silencing the folks.
But State Representative Randy Fine disagrees, saying the maps are constitutionally compliant and this isn't a matter of reducing minority representation.
They believe you should get the percentage of seats of people who look like you or act like you or vote like you. That's not our system in this country. We have single districts and people in those districts vote.
Bracey adds this important issue was overshadowed by the bill the governor also signed into law on Friday that dissolves Disney's Reedy Creek Improvement District.
I believe that the Reedy Creek bill and dealing with Disney was designed, the timing was designed that way to overshadow what he was doing with the match. I think that was clear.
As of now, no hearings have been set in that lawsuit against the governor's map. But the big question is, how long will this take to play out in the courts? Qualifying for Congress starts in June, and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle say we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Reporting in Orlando, I'm Amanda Castro, getting results, News 6.
Drinking water before bed.
Okay, pause right there. All right, that is from out of Florida. That is Channel 6. Let's see, WKMG News 6, Orlando, Florida. That's on their YouTube channel. Black lawmakers accuse DeSantis of thug behavior as voting rights groups sue over redistricting. Okay, and then also check out the article here from the Washington Post. New district map. Let me flip over to this here. Okay, so we have the one from CNN, and then this one here from the Washington Post. New district map sanctioned by DeSantis passes after protest by black legislators. They were protesting on the state legislature floor. The group of Florida lawmakers chanted and bowed their heads in prayer before the session went into recess. Okay, this is one of the reasons why Governor Ron DeSantis must be voted out of office. Okay, and back in 2018, we're going to clip number 2 from Roland Martin Unfiltered in just a second. Back in 2018, when Ron DeSantis ran against Andrew Gillum, and I was telling people, we got to make sure Ron DeSantis does not get in office. Vote for Andrew Gillum. His policies were better for African Americans than Ron DeSantis. And some woke ass people were saying, "Oh, Ron DeSantis, Andrew Gillum doesn't have a black agenda." And I said, Ron DeSantis has an anti-black agenda, and an anti-black agenda is worse than not having a black agenda. Okay, policies can benefit you. They don't have to say black African American to benefit you. I've been on the committee to write an executive order for the city of Detroit. Policies don't have to say black or African American to benefit you. 1, 2. If the majority of the people that have to vote on the bill are white, it's better if it doesn't say black or African American. There was a reason why most slaves who ran away at nighttime, not in the daytime. They weren't stupid. But some of us today don't have the common sense of a slave. We're going to go to Roland Martin Unfiltered when we come back from the break. I know we're up against a break here. But read these 2 articles. We got to do more reading. We have 2 eyes and 2 ears, most of us, and 1 mouth. So we should do 4 times as much reading, watching, and listening as we do talking. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation The Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
The work that I do is larger than the fashion industry. It's larger than the art world. And I believe that I was born to bring newness into this world. I'm Kaima McIntyre. I'm 24 years old and I'm an artist. I create everything from paintings to jewelry design, metaphysical jewelry to be specific, and fashion design. The only reason why my prom dress went viral is because people needed it. Within a few days of going viral, Notori Naughton reached out to me and she's like, I saw your dress, can you make me a dress? I was equally as shocked to be asked by a celebrity to design their dress at the age of 17. That's just one person, and the list just continues to go on, to Janet Jackson, to Tyra Banks. It really hits home. That means that the discussion is happening on the grounds in real time.
What does self-care mean to you? To us, it's an opportunity to reconnect with nature. A chance to create something remarkable. At Sage and Elm Apothecary, our handcrafted skincare and household products immerse you in Earth's sweetest nectar, connecting you to nature in a way you never imagined. See for yourself and visit us at sageandelmapothecary.com.
910, the Superstation, Detroit's only African American talk radio.
All right, welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. Okay, be sure to visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. We just had session number 1, class number 1 of Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We have a new section that just started up Saturday, April 23rd. Class number 2 is Saturday, May 7th, because I'll be at the One Africa Power and Unity Conference. You've been hearing the commercials here. So as soon as you register for the class, you can watch class number 1. There's bonus content there. There's going to be some other bonus content I'm going to upload, like I'm going to upload my Juneteenth presentation and an interview one of the media outlets did with me doing with the history of Juneteenth. So this class is on sale, $80, regularly $130. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Okay, this you can use this information, this content with your children also. I would say the content is PG-13. Okay, so visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Also, you can email us if you have any questions. Email us at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. If you've taken any of my online classes in the past, you'll get a 50% discount and a 50% discount on the 3-course bundle pack as well. Okay. And if you have any questions, you can also give us a call, 313-462-0003, 313-462-0003. Okay. I'm pretty busy, so be sure to leave a voicemail message also. All right. Okay. That's the office number for the African History Network, 313-462-0003. All right. I want to go back to this story here. We're going to clip number 2, Shakita from Roland Martin Unfiltered. So this is dealing with Florida and Governor Ron DeSantis signing off on the redistricting of a congressional map that many say violate the Fair Districts Amendment, and it eliminates 2 congressional districts, the 5th congressional district and the 10th congressional district. Okay, in Florida, these are 2 districts held by African American members of the House of Representatives. District 5 is Representative Al Lawson is District 5, and District 10 is Representative Val Demings. Okay, and she's running for U.S. Senator. The map dismantles the state's 5th congressional district, currently represented by Democrat Al Lawson, which connects Black communities from Tallahassee, Florida to Jacksonville, Florida. Instead, Jacksonville, the city with the largest African American population in Florida, is divided into 2 Republican-leaning districts. The map also shifts the 10th congressional district and Orlando area seat represented by Val Demings, a Black Democrat now running for U.S. Senate. It shifts it east toward whiter communities. Okay, Governor Ron DeSantis has contended those districts are racially gerrymandered and suggested they are unconstitutional. Now, once again, Florida was the first state to have poll taxes in 1889, followed by Mississippi. And what Mississippi did, if their Mississippi State Convention in 1890, that we talk about here many times on this show, because so many people don't understand history and don't understand how history is repeating itself. It was known as the Mississippi Plan. And the only Negro who was there, Isaiah T. Montgomery, who was the founder of Bayou, Mississippi, and he was the mayor of Bayou, Mississippi, a former slave, and became a wealthy landowner. He voted along with the white supremacists in the state legislature to disenfranchise African Americans. Now, I don't know if he's related to Senator Tim Scott, Black Tea Party Republican from South Carolina. I don't know if he's related, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is. Read this article here from the Washington Post. The Mississippi plan to keep blacks from voting in 1890. We came here to exclude the Negro. We came here to exclude the Negro. That's a direct quote from Solomon Saladin Calhoun, who was the White County judge who presided over the Mississippi State Convention of 1890. And he said exactly what they were there to do. He said, let's tell the truth. If it burst the bottom of the universe, he said, quote, we came here to exclude the Negro. Nothing short of this will answer, because African Americans were the majority of the voters in Mississippi in 1890. Okay. And what they did in Mississippi became known as the Mississippi Plan, which became the model that was used throughout the South to disenfranchise African American voters. All right, so I want to go to this clip here. I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, April 22nd, and Roland spoke with Cliff Albright from Black Voters Matter, and then he went to this panel. I was on this panel. Let's go to this clip.
Republicans have been attacking Democrats all across the country, especially black people. Florida, they chose to take the racism to a whole new level. Governor Ron DeSantis rejected the maps that the legislature drew up. So he said, I'm going to drop my own, getting rid of 2 majority black districts. Already, lawsuits have been filed against Florida as a result of this decision. Joining us right now, folks, is Cliff Albright. He is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Glad to have him with us. Cliff, look, we expect stupid stuff to happen in Florida. Now we see this. This is an absolute attempt by Governor Ron DeSantis to completely destroy black representation in Congress.
You're absolutely right, Roland. By the way, happy belated anniversary.
Appreciate it.
No, I mean, we're looking at, this is even worse than what we saw out of the recent situations in Alabama with their maps and Louisiana with their maps. In those situations, the fight was really about whether or not the maps would be changed to give black folks the extra representation that we should have. In this situation, DeSantis, as you already noted, has gone out of his way, in fact, arguing with his own Republicans within his state, arguing to not increase black representation, but to take away 2 seats, including carving up the seat that's in northern Florida, which goes roughly from Jacksonville over to Tallahassee, which includes some rural black populations in between, but literally carving up that one district into 4 separate districts, none of which would have the ability to elect a black representative, taking it from a district that has, close to 50% black representation and carving it up into 4 districts, none of which have anything more than 30%, and some as low as in the teens. And so, he's been very clear about what it is that he was trying to do. In fact, idiotically clear, because he's basically announced that the reason that he was doing this is because he's trying to carve up this black district, just a clear violation, not just of the Voting Rights Act, but more importantly, even of Florida law and a Florida amendment that was passed regarding fair districts back in 2010, an amendment that was passed because of what the voters voted for in the state of Florida. So this is an attack on democracy writ large, but obviously on black folks. This is squarely rooted in racism and anti-blackness, and he's not even trying to hide it.
And look, the reality is, whether it's this decision, whether it's him leading the removal of Disney's favorite tax status, we can go down the line. Ron DeSantis is trying to be Donald Trump 2.0. He's up for re-election as governor, but he also wants to be he wants to be the Republican nominee for president in 2024. That's what all of these moves are about. And in fact, I dare say that Ron DeSantis, and I said this about Mike Pence, is even more than Donald Trump, more dangerous than Donald Trump. We knew Donald Trump was a buffoon, but these folks are even more dangerous than that idiot.
Yeah, no, definitely. And he's demonstrated it in a variety of ways. And you just mentioned, some of the things. And that's why I always say, people try to act like voter suppression is just, just an administrative act. It's just a white collar crime, right? It's a bureaucratic crime. No, voter suppression is a violent crime. It has violent impacts on our lives. And when you have somebody like DeSantis who's in power because of voter suppression and is able to do things like don't say gay and attacking LGBT rights and attacking black rights and literally killing people in the state of Florida because of the way that he's handled or mishandled COVID and a protest bill, which has literally allowed people to drive cars over protesters. Let's not forget that. Voter suppression is a violent crime. It is having violent impacts on our lives, and he's using any means necessary to maintain that. Keep in mind that and shout out to the Florida legislators who, in the midst of this vote on this map, decided to do a sit-in, and not even just a sit-in, a full-out protest, because they weren't just sitting quietly. They had signs and were walking around, and so shout out to them. But keep in mind what they did, what the Republicans did in response to that. They cut off the internet, right, which is something that you see in these countries that people try to paint at as being so authoritarian, dictatorships and all that. They cut off the internet, and then they kicked out the journalists, right, which again is something that you see in all these authoritarian states. This is what it's come to in the state of Florida. All of it is rooted in anti-blackness, but as we often see with racism, structural racism, and white supremacy, what starts off geared directly at us eventually infects their entire system. Again, the constitutional amendment that he is going against in Florida law is an amendment that was passed by the voters of Florida. And so he's attacking black voters and the black community, but in doing so, he is attacking the very nature of Florida democracy and something that Florida voters across the board had voted to approve.
Well, I mean, these are the games that Republicans are playing, and this is also why many folks have been making it clear that Democrats have got to wake the hell up, pay attention to.
Okay, pause it right there. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 if you have a quick question or comment. We'll be back in a few minutes. Abundant Capital Group is a real estate investment company with over 20 years of experience in real estate. They specialize in two areas of real estate. One, they solve real estate problems with creative financing solutions that give the seller the most money for their property. And two, they show individuals how to get a higher rate of return on their investment capital with real estate note investing. If you are looking to sell or need to sell your property, here is what they provide. Market value offer, even if you have little or no equity. They typically pay all closing costs, which can be thousands of dollars. They close on a date of the seller's choosing, and the seller does not have to be out of the house at the time of closing. They take the property in an as-is condition, and the seller is not required to make any repairs. Give them a call or email them today for a free consultation and see how they can help you with your real estate needs. Call them at 973-475-8488. That's 973-475-8488. Visit their website, abundantcapitalgroup.com. That's abundantcapitalgroup.com. And email them at acg@abundantcapitalgroup.com. Follow them on Instagram and Facebook at Abundant Capital Group. Welcome back to the African History Network show. All right. I want to go back to this clip here from Roland Martin Unfiltered. We were talking about the Governor Ron DeSantis signing off on a new congressional map that eliminates 2 black districts. Roland is speaking with Cliff Albright of Black Voters Matter. Then he goes to his panel. I was on this panel. Let's go back to this clip, please, Shakita.
What's going on? You look at the polling numbers of President Joe Biden, they're down. They are not as low as Donald Trump's were at this particular point. And so Democrats are going to have to muster something to say to voters, especially black voters. Otherwise, they're going to get obliterated in November, and they very well could take control of the House and the Senate. And if that happens, you're going to see all sorts of federal investigations. You may see Republicans attempt to impeach President Joe Biden. You're not going to see the black judges that Biden has been appointing get confirmed by the United States Senate. They are going to declare war on black people and America if they are in control of the House and Senate come January 2023.
That's right. And the only way to keep that from happening, one of the only ways to keep that from happening, and you mentioned it, Roland, Democrats have got to get, including in Congress as well as in the White House, Democrats have got to be just as ruthless about using their power. And yes, I said ruthless. They've got to be just as ruthless about using their power for the good, right? As folks like DeSantis have been for using it for the bad in the name of white supremacy and racism and anti-LGBT and anti-women and anti-everybody else, right? That's their campaign motto, right? Republican Party, we hate everybody. And so, but they don't hate anybody more than black folks. So we need the Democratic candidates, those who are already in office, as well as those that are running for office, to be just as clear about their defense about black folks and other marginalized groups, and to speak to our issues and to speak so unapologetically. That's how you mobilize a base. President Biden has got to be just as aggressive at using his power and to protect students and to waive student loan debt and to deal with, police violence and whatever it is that they can do at the executive level. He's got to be just as aggressive at doing that as people like DeSantis are for using their power for the bad. That is the only way. We're not going to say that you counter hate with hate, right? But you got to counter power with power. And you got to counter it with righteous power that is rooted in love and is responsive to your base the same way DeSantis, as you said, this entire move, he achieves two things. One, he gets to achieve his anti-black fantasies, and two, he gets to establish himself as somebody who's Trumpier than Trump, and as somebody who can even stand up to Republicans within his own party. The Democrats have got to find that kind of courage and be willing to use their power in the same ways, and to campaign in a way that speaks towards that, not to campaign in a way that's speaking towards these unicorns that they think are out there that are going to somehow be converted to voting for, much the way that one of the Democratic candidates in Florida, we're not going to go into that, stepped on her own toes and made some mistakes because she was trying to cater to some Trump voters. That's not a winning strategy.
All right, then. Cliff Albright, always a pleasure, man. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, going to bring in my panel now. Glad to have them here. Let's start out with Michael Imhotep, host of the African History Network, Kelly Bethea, communication strategist, Matt Manning, civil rights attorney. Let's get right into it. Michael, I'll start with you. It is crazy. I mean, just to literally watch what is going on, what Ron DeSantis is doing in Florida. I mean, he is really a mini Donald Trump. This man is a menace to society. And you would think that Democrats are coming up with a consistent and coherent message to take this man down, but they're flailing in Florida. They have no leadership whatsoever.
Yeah, Roland, back in 2018, when Andrew Gillum was running for governor of Florida against Ron DeSantis, and they had the debate, and Andrew Gillum said, I'm not calling Mr. DeSantis a racist. I'm saying the racists believe Mr. DeSantis is a racist. And I was telling people on my show who are in Florida, we have to stop Ron DeSantis. And people were telling me, oh, Andrew Gillum doesn't have a black agenda. They were saying they weren't going to vote because Andrew Gillum doesn't have a black agenda. I said, Ron DeSantis has a black agenda. He has an anti-black agenda. And an anti-black agenda is worse than not having a black agenda. So, yes, there needs to be better leadership from Democrats crafting a message, fighting against this. But also, when it comes to African Americans, we have to have an internal white supremacist detector that goes off and teaches us how to identify these threats, because we could see this coming. And DeSantis wants to run for president. And you look at the congressional maps, you look at the stop the anti-woke bill, you look at don't say gay bill, all this nonsense. And at some point, I think we're going to come to the realization that we're going to have to leverage our economics to enforce our politics and target some of these corporations who help finance DeSantis and other Republicans, and have nationwide economic boycotts against them. I know the boycotts have launched them right now, but we're going to have to, as Dr. King said, April 3rd, 1968, we're going to have to redistribute the pain through targeted, sustained economic withdrawal strategies.
Well, Matt, what we are seeing, we are seeing on the Democratic side a successful legal strategy.
I think you're right in that the Democrats have to not only continue that push with legislation, or rather with the litigation, but they also have to make sure that people understand. I think what he said was so brilliant, that this is a violent crime. When voter suppression occurs, it affects every aspect of our life, and it generally affects us in particular. And for example, people may not know, but in the city of Miami, the exact same fight is going on right now with a black enclave called Coconut Grove, where the city of Miami is trying to dilute their voting potential right there in Miami. So Democrats need to continue leveraging this point, and they need to continue educating on this point so people understand just how important it is to fight against this voter suppression.
Okay, now I want to look at this here quickly here. We've got the article that I talked about. Read this one here. We're going to talk about this some more on tomorrow's show. This is from thegrio.com. This got very, very little news coverage. Still trying to figure out why. Biden-Harris administration unveils government-wide action plans on racial equity. This is April 14th, 2020. Now, this references this fact sheet that came out April 14th, 2022. That's not the right one that I want. I want the one from April 14th. There's a fact sheet that came out April 14th, 2022. Biden-Harris administration releases agency equity action plans and racial justice across the federal government. Okay. And this is what this article and this announcement is in reference to. But I'll pull this up here after the show. But read this article here, because the executive order, this references an executive order that Biden signed on day one. He signed 10 executive orders on the first day in office, January 20th, 2021. This announcement here references executive order 13985. It's at whitehouse.gov, where all this other stuff is that people don't read. It's at whitehouse.gov. You can read it for yourself. The Biden-Harris administration unveiled on Thursday a massive government-wide action plan to advance racial equity across 90 federal agencies, with more than 300 strategies and commitments laid out by government leaders. The announcement from the dozens of federal agencies are the start of fulfilling an executive order signed by President Joe Biden on his first day in office, day one. You can go read the 10 executive orders he did on day one, on his first day in office, to advance racial equity across the entire federal government. In a video announcing the racial equity action plans, President Joe Biden acknowledged that the commitments laid out by his administration must not be seen as just a one-year project, but a generational commitment. Not a one-year project, but a generational commitment. These plans are an important step forward, reflecting the Biden-Harris administration's work to make the promise of America real for every American, Joe Biden said. Read the rest of this article here. I saw very little media coverage on this. The Grio, which is black-owned and operated, had an article on this. I don't know who else covered this. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching for a few more minutes. We're going to keep on going. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. Okay, this is the one that I want right here. So this is at whitehouse.gov, where all this other information is. It's not like it's a secret. Fact sheet: Biden-Harris administration releases agency equity plan, agency equity action plans to advance equity and racial justice across the federal government. This is a follow-up to an executive order that President Joe Biden did on the first day in office that very few people talk about. This is from April 14th, 2022. How many people knew about this? How many people read the article from the Griot? Did you see media coverage on this? On his first day in office, President Joe Biden signed Executive Order 13985, advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. Okay, Executive Order 13985. Let me see. Let's go back to this. Where is that? Right here. Okay, that historic executive order directed the whole, WHOLE, directed the whole of the federal government to advance an ambitious equity and racial justice agenda. Let's see if we can increase the size of this. Okay, let's look at toggle large font size. All right. Today, more than 90 federal agencies, including all cabinet level agencies, are releasing the first ever in history, the first ever equity action plans that lay out more than 300 concrete strategies and commitments to address systemic barriers in our nation's policies and programs that hold too many underserved communities back from prosperity, dignity, and equality. Who heard about this? Once again, I saw very little coverage in the media. Advancing equity is not a one-year project. It is a generational commitment. These plans are an important step forward, reflecting the Biden-Harris administration's work to make the promise of America real for every American, including by implementing the first ever national strategy on gender equity and equality, working to ensure the federal government is a model for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, working to deliver environmental justice through the Justice 40 initiative, and working to prevent and combat discrimination on the basis of gender identity or sexual orientation. Now, they go through and break this down. Let's see here. They go through and Department of Labor, Department of Labor, Department of Housing, HUD. They go through and break down HUD. The Department of Housing and Urban Development is working to eliminate the racial gap in home ownership, address the disproportionate rates of homelessness among underserved communities, and reduce bias in home appraisals. Now, we talked about this. I think it was in the month of March that the Biden-Harris administration rolled out something to deal with reducing bias in home appraisals, which directly attacks the wealth gap, the racial wealth gap, and generational wealth as well, or the lack thereof, and reduce bias in home appraisals through the interagency task force on property appraisal and valuation equity. Then they talk about the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, is developing a comprehensive framework for evaluating the cumulative impacts of pollution on underserved low-income communities. The EPA will also reinvigorate civil rights enforcement to ensure that environmental justice is at the heart of the agency's mission. They talk about the Department of Transportation is increasing investments in underserved communities by launching a national technical assistance center to provide targeted support with planning, project development, grant applications, and project delivery for communities that face barriers to accessing transportation resources. We also know that part of the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, part of that is going to address how African American communities especially were harmed by the 1952 and 1956 U.S. Interstate Highway Acts that drove 41,000 miles of interstate highways throughout our communities, disrupting our communities. Our homes were taken through, many of our homes were taken through eminent domain, businesses wiped out, things like this. This part of that $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, has talked about. It hasn't gotten a whole lot of coverage, however, but that's the start to address the damage that was done to our communities by the U.S. highways. The Department of Justice is improving language access to its programs so that Americans with limited English proficiency can better report crimes. Then they talk about the Department of Interior. The Department of Commerce is investing nearly $50 billion in broadband infrastructure deployment, affordability, and digital inclusion efforts to help close the digital divide, particularly for rural and tribal communities. And we know 25% of African Americans live in rural America. The Department of Health and Human Services is increasing outreach to communities of color to encourage enrollment in free and low-cost healthcare, and is addressing the maternal mortality crisis. So we know that also Vice President Kamala Harris just held a summit at the White House dealing with Black Maternal Health Week as well. Okay, Black Maternal Mortality Week, Black Maternal Health Week also, because she's been shining the light going back to December 2021 when she held the first summit on Black maternal health at the White House. She's been shining the light on this as well. And is addressing the maternal mortality crisis that disproportionately impacts Black and Native families, including by working with states to extend postpartum coverage in Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program. Then they talk about the Department of Homeland Security is working to ensure underserved communities are treated fairly in airport screenings by improving systems and enhancing training for officers. DHS is also engaging with improving underserved communities' access to grant programs that help counter domestic violent extremism, white supremacists. Domestic violent extremism to better address the terrorism-related threat to our country posed by white supremacists and other domestic terrorists. Most of them probably voted for Donald Trump too. I don't know that for certain, but just having done radio for 12 years and covering down and reporting on Donald Trump, most of them probably voted for Donald Trump also. The Department of Defense is advancing safe and equitable use of artificial intelligence technology to mitigate algorithmic bias by investing in agency-wide responsible artificial intelligence development and investing in the development of a more diverse AI workforce, including through partnerships with historically Black colleges and universities and MSIs, minority serving institutions. U.S. Department of Agriculture is expanding equity access to nutrition assistance programs and strengthening gender equity by implementing a national awareness campaign and expanding the implementation of online ordering in the Women, Infants, and Children Nutrition Program, WIC. The Small Business Administration is investing in improved technology to increase access to capital for businesses in underserved communities and minority-owned businesses by streamlining program applications and integrating data. The Social Security Administration, which was created in 1935 under the New Deal from President Franklin Roosevelt, is identifying inequalities and addressing systemic administrative barriers to participation in key safety net programs, such as disability benefits. You know anybody getting SSI? Such as disability benefits, and ensuring equitable service delivery for unrepresented individuals navigating the disability application appeals process, and increase gender equity in its services. Then we go to embedding equity in everyday government. Embedding equity in everyday government. In addition to prioritizing greater equity in the services the federal government provides to American people, agency equity action plans also contain innovative new strategies to embed equity, racial justice, and gender equality in day-to-day governing. These approaches include building accountability for equity through data collection and reporting. Then we have reducing administrative burdens and simplifying government services, reimagining federal service design and delivery through life experiences. And there's subheadings for all there's a description of all these headings, so you can go read this yourself. Engaging with stakeholders and communities who have been historically excluded to ensure government policies are informed by the broadest cross-section of Americans. Agencies are engaging trusted intermediaries and tailoring outreach to make meaningful and authentic participation possible for a wide range of Americans. Narrowing wealth gaps through federal contracting and procurement. Narrowing wealth gaps through federal contracting and procurement. As the largest buyer in the world, the U.S. federal government will address racial and gender wealth gaps by leveraging the power of federal procurement to drive greater investment in minority-owned and women-owned small businesses. We didn't have federal government contracts, but we had contracts with the city of Detroit, county of Wayne, and the state of Michigan. When I was doing business consulting and then also managing a construction company, we ran a construction trades program, and then we became a general contractor for a city of Detroit project. Okay, so I've been involved in bidding on government contracts, things like this, and it's a lucrative business. And most of our employees were African Americans that we were paying. And these government contracts are reallocation of taxpayer dollars. So we pay taxes. We need to go get this money. Like Frank Lucas said, I'm going to get that money in American Gangster. Okay, we need to go get that money. Delivering equity through grant making. Let me back up right here. This is important. Narrowing wealth gaps through federal contracting and procurement. As the largest buyer in the world, the U.S. federal government will address racial and gender wealth gaps by leveraging the power of federal procurement to drive greater investment in minority-owned and women-owned small businesses. And what happens is, I know with the county of Wayne, which is the county that Detroit is in, they had certifications for minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, because when you bid on contracts, and I put together bid packages for the contracts, I had to take us through the process of being recertified as a vendor for the county of Wayne, because you can't just jump up and say, hey, we can do that job, give us the contract, things like this. You have to go through a process to become a vendor of a municipality, of a county, of a state. There's a process you have to go through to be an authorized vendor so you can bid on contracts. A lot of us don't have the paperwork together, don't go through the process to actually become an authorized vendor of a city, county, state, federal government to be able to bid on the contracts. So when you have those different types of certifications, small business, there was a small business certification, there was a women-owned business certification, and a minority-owned business certification. When you apply for the contract, when you put in a bid or put in a proposal for the contract, you got extra points because they had a point scoring system. It wasn't just looking at the who had the lowest bid. It was a point scoring system. You got extra points for having those certifications, being minority owned, women owned, meaning that a woman was, I think it was a woman was either 50% or 51% owner in the business, something like that. It'll vary from government to government. And then you got a small business, women owned, and minority owned. You got extra points on the scoring when you submitted a proposal for a contract. Delivering equity through grant making. Okay, persistent barriers make it difficult for under-resourced and underserved communities to be aware of, compete for, and effectively deploy federal grants for everything from infrastructure. For everything from infrastructure to medical research. Because a lot of times people, if you're not in the loop, if you maybe don't know somebody in the government entity to wire you up when these contracts are coming down, you may not even know about it until you see on the news somebody got a contract. Agencies are addressing these barriers by helping underserved communities learn about and navigate federal funding opportunities, expanding capacity building efforts, and embedding a focus on equity into decision making about how to award federal grants. All right. Advancing equity through the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan and bipartisan infrastructure law implementation. Now, no Republicans in the House or the Senate voted for the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. And one of the things it did, even though it even helped Republicans that voted for the Republicans, they didn't even support the bill. Had $46.5 billion in there in rental assistance for renters and for landlords. $46.5 billion. The $4 billion in debt forgiveness for African American farmers and Latino farmers, Native American farmers, that got blocked by jealous white farmers who sued to stop the funding and said that their constitutional rights were being violated because they were not allowed to take advantage of the debt forgiveness, even though white farmers got almost $26 billion in COVID-19 relief from the Trump administration, and African American farmers only got $26 million out of the $26 billion that white farmers got. That was in 2020 under the Trump administration. The white farmers weren't claiming discrimination against African American farmers at the time when we were being discriminated against. Okay, so we need to really go research what's in that $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan that we talked about numerous times here on this show. It's also at whitehouse.gov as well. They have a fact sheet on that. The president has made equity a priority in the implementation of two of the most ambitious legislative packages in generations, with the goal of ensuring an inclusive response and recovery from the pandemic and in rebuilding our nation's infrastructure. Okay, so check this out. That's just a summary of these 6 pages here. Who knew about this? Who actually read this before I showed this to you? Who knew about this? Who saw this before I showed this to you? This came out April 14th, 2022. Fact sheet: Biden-Harris administration releases agency equity plan, agency equity action plans to reduce equity and racial justice across the federal government, which is a follow-up to an executive order that Biden signed on his first day in office, Executive Order 13985. And this fact sheet here is what the article from thegrio.com picked up by Yahoo News is talking about. There was very little there was very little coverage. Well, actually on MSNBC, I ain't seen nothing on this. The only articles I've really seen on this are from thegrio.com. So read this here. Biden-Harris administration unveils government-wide action plans on racial equity. We talked about it for a couple of minutes on Roland Martin and Filter because we have so much to cover. But this needs to get more coverage. This needs to get more coverage. Okay. So we're running out of time here. On tomorrow's show, we'll talk about what came out today dealing with student loan debt. We talked about this briefly at the top of the show. We'll discuss this some more tomorrow. This is from businessinsider.com. They picked this story up from cbsnews.com. Biden reportedly told lawmakers he's looking for ways to forgive most federal debt. So there was a meeting that took place, and this story came out Tuesday. There was a meeting that took place between Biden and the Hispanic caucus, okay? And he talked about this in the meeting. President Joe Biden appears to be going beyond his campaign pledge when it comes to student loan forgiveness. CBS News reported on Tuesday, April 27th, that in the 90-minute Monday meeting, Monday, April 26th, Monday, April 25th. This was Tuesday, April 26th. In a Monday meeting with some members of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, Biden said he has asked his aides to explore options of broad forgiveness for federal loans. Broad forgiveness of federal loans, a lawmaker in attendance reportedly told the news outlet CBS News. Quote, they're looking at different options on what they can do on forgiving it entirely. They're looking at different options on what they can do on forgiving it entirely. That was our request, what they can do, period. On forgiving it entirely. That was our request, one of the lawmakers said, who requested to remain anonymous. Now, CBS later updated its story to clarify that Biden did not say anything about forgiving all student debt, but is open to going beyond his $10,000 loan forgiveness campaign pledge. Okay. So it's about $1.6 trillion in student loan debt, about 44 million Americans. The Washington Post later confirmed the reporting from CBS News. Representative Tony Cardenas, one of the meeting attendees, told the Washington Post that Biden was incredibly positive, quote unquote, incredibly positive about the idea of canceling at least $10,000 in student debt. And Representative Darren Soto, another attendee, added that canceling student debt is something Biden would like to carry out sooner rather than later, but he wants to be sure doing so will not add to any inflationary pressures. With Biden himself having been fairly quiet on what actions he will take on student debt, this could mark a significant step toward broad relief. Earlier this month, Biden extended the pause on student loan payments with waived interest through August 31st. He also announced a plan to return over 7 million borrowers in default to good standing. How many people heard about this? People think there's nothing taking place with student loan debt. That's not true. You have to read. This is the type of information we cover on this show. He also announced a plan to return over 7 million borrowers in default to good standing. Since then, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki noted Biden will make a decision on canceling student debt before the pause expires on August 31st, or he will extend the pause again. And Biden's latest comments are indicating progress toward that decision. All right, now read the rest of this here. Now there is do I have the article up from Forbes? No, there was an article from Forbes. where's the there was one, hold on, there's one from Forbes I wanted to go to. Okay, $1.7 trillion in student debt. Now, where is, hold on, let me see something here. Oh, okay. I think I have it here on my rundown sheet. There's an article from Fortune. I think it was Fortune magazine. We posted this on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. Forbes, this one from Forbes. Thousands of jobs qualify for expanded student loan forgiveness. Okay, now I posted this article when it came out. How many people saw this? This is from Forbes.com, March 1st, 2022. Let's flip over to this article here. Okay, let's look at this one here. All right, so this one from Forbes.com. Let's go to this. This is from March 1st, 2022. Thousands of jobs qualify for expanded student loan forgiveness program. Thousands of jobs qualify for expanded student loan forgiveness program. Under a temporary expansion of a key federal student loan forgiveness program for public service workers, thousands of jobs will qualify and 1 million borrowers may ultimately benefit. Have you heard about this? Thousands of jobs will qualify and 1 million borrowers may ultimately benefit. New changes to student loan forgiveness program for public service workers. Okay, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness, PSLF program can wipe out the federal student loan debt for borrowers committed to public service careers. PSLF was established in 2007, but its original eligibility rules were complex and poorly communicated to borrowers. PSLF restricted student loan forgiveness to borrowers with direct program federal student loans only. Other types of federal student loans were excluded. The program also required borrowers to repay their loans under an income-driven repayment plan, leaving out borrowers who were making payments under most other plans. Okay, now late October 2021. The Biden-Harris administration announced a broad temporary new initiative to expand PCLF relief called the Limited PCLF Waiver. The expansion will allow borrowers to get credit for periods of repayment that would not have qualified under the original PCLF rules. This includes past payments made on non-direct federal loans like FFEL loans or Perkins loans, as well as payments made under non-qualifying repayment plans. According to the Biden-Harris administration, 70,000 borrowers have already received $5 billion in student loan forgiveness, okay, under the waiver. And officials expect hundreds of thousands more to ultimately benefit from the temporary relief. Okay, so you have that. Then you have student loan forgiveness for nonprofit workers, student loan forgiveness for nonprofit workers. All right. Now, full-time employment for designated 501c3 nonprofit organizations generally qualifies for PSLF. Many nonprofit organizations are 501c3s, including private nonprofit academic institutions, nonprofit hospitals, and charitable organizations. Nonprofit organizations that are not 501c3s may or may not qualify. For example, partisan political organizations and labor unions generally won't be eligible. Other types of nonprofit organizations may or may not count, but the Department of Education makes these determinations on a case-by-case basis. Then you have student loan forgiveness for public servants, student loan forgiveness for public servants, full-time employment for any domestic government entity would qualify for PSLF as well in most cases. This would include a government agency at any level, federal, state, or municipal, city, as well as public institutions like public schools, public institutions like public schools, public school teachers, public school employees. Employment for quasi-public agencies or private organizations established by governments may not count. Read the rest of this here, okay? Read the rest of this. Then you have student loan forgiveness for religious work. When PSLF was first enacted, religious-oriented work such as leading worship services or engaging in religious instruction was specifically excluded from PSLF eligibility, even if the borrower was a full-time employee of a 501c3 nonprofit organization, such as a church, synagogue, or mosque. However, new regulations that became effective last year under the Biden-Harris administration expanded qualifying PSLF employment to include religious work. Then you have student loan forgiveness for part-time work. Generally, qualifying PSLF employment must be full-time and at least 30 hours per week on average. However, borrowers can also qualify through part-time work. To do so, they must have at least 2 part-time positions that are each with a qualifying PSLF employer, and their combined working hours must be at least 30 hours per week. Okay. Employment position does not matter. Unlike other federal loan forgiveness programs, such as teacher loan forgiveness or Perkins loan forgiveness, PSLF does not limit eligibility to specific occupations or job titles. The employment requirements simply mandate that the employer itself qualifies. So for example, qualifying employment at a public school could include any number of professions, including teachers, administrators, coaches, guidance counselors, and school nurses. Okay, read the rest of this here. How many people heard about this? This came out March 1st, 2022. How many people heard about this? Okay, the requirement is, however, that requirement is waived. Okay, read the rest of this here. Okay, now, how to get more information. The Education Department has revamped its online PCLF help tool. They have a link here for it, which allows borrowers to get a preliminary assessment as to whether their employment may qualify for the loan forgiveness. Okay. Now, already close to $17 billion. So they have a link here to another article. Already close to $17 billion in student loan debt has been forgiven by the Biden-Harris administration. Have you heard about this? Okay. Now, if all this is going on and you haven't heard about any of this, then, you have to ask yourself why. Now, where are you getting your information from? Where are you getting your news from? Yes, I've said before, the Biden-Harris administration has a messaging problem. But all this stuff here, the articles are written on this stuff. So we need to read also. Biden's student loan forgiveness now tops $16 billion after newest wave of approvals. Have you heard about this? This is from February 21st, 2022. Can I close this ad out? Okay. The Biden-Harris administration has now approved at least $16 billion in student loan forgiveness. That was February 21st, 2022. Is at least $17 billion now. according to the Department of Education following last week's announcement of newly approved eligible borrowers. Biden's targeted student loan forgiveness. The $16 billion in student loan cancellation approved so far reflects the Biden administration's targeted approach to wiping out student debt. Officials are trying to ease access to existing student loan forgiveness programs by relaxing program requirements, expediting approvals, and expanding the pools of eligible borrowers. The administration has approved $7.8 billion in federal student loan cancellation for more than 400,000 disabled borrowers, okay, under the Total and Permanent Disability TPD discharge program. Through its TPD discharge initiatives, the Education Department is providing automatic okay, let's see. Under the TPD discharge program, due to the failure of some borrowers to return paperwork related, let me back up here. Okay, the Education Department is providing automatic discharges for certain borrowers who are receiving Social Security disability benefits. Okay, so read the rest of this here. Then it goes through, okay, also provided $5 billion in student loan forgiveness for 70,000 borrowers through fixes to the to the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So we just talked about that. And then the department announced last week that it approved $415 million in borrower defense claims for 16,000 borrowers who attended ITT Technical Institutes, DeVry, Westwood College, Minnesota School of Business, and Globe University. The department had previously approved another $1.2 billion in federal student loan cancellation for borrowers who had attended ITT technical institutes, because one of the things that they've been doing is focusing on predatory colleges, and predatory colleges disproportionately target African Americans and Latinos, and they run the commercials during daytime television, and people, you know, then they get people to take out these exorbitant student loans. Then after they go through the program, get the certificate, get the diploma, whatever it is, then oftentimes they don't place them in a job that has anything to do with their certification, and they're stuck with this student loan debt. So they've been going hard on targeting student loan forgiveness for people who are saddled with debt from predatory colleges. Okay, so read the rest of this here. Okay, this came out. This was from February 21st, 2022 from Forbes.com. All right. So now it's at least 17 billion, because I've been looking at this. It's about 700,000, at least 700,000 people that have gotten $17 billion in student loan forgiveness. All right. So read those articles there. You see, this is the type of information we cover here. All this nonsensical stuff floating around, I don't have time to deal with. Okay, we have real issues to deal with. All right, if you like this type of information, you want to support the African History Network, we definitely need your support. You can support us in a couple of ways. $, the AHN Show through Cash App. $, the AHN Show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, pay the bills, buy these ink cartridges, buy all this paper that I use, pay for these services. And we have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. This is our official Cash App account, $, the AHN Show, SHOW. When you go to it, it says Michael and shows my picture here. These other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts that I'm trying to get shut down because they've been stealing money from us. Cash App has launched an investigation into these fake accounts. We have our link here and the PayPal button also. Now, and then you can register for the online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. We just had a fantastic class, number 1, of ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'an for understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. That was on Saturday, April 23rd. Class number 2 is Saturday, May 7th. Okay, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As soon as you register, you can watch class number 1. There's bonus content that you can watch. There's an interview I did with Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Where Africans Documented Evidence. Is actually him speaking to my class. I had him in my class, one of my previous classes. And there's going to be other bonus content that we upload as well. The class is on sale $80, regularly $130. As soon as you register, you can start watching content. You can ask questions in the class also through the live text chat. And you can see me in the class. I can't see you, so you don't have to worry about getting dressed up or anything like that for the class. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded, so you can go back and watch it anytime. So even a year from now, you'll still have full access to the class. You can go back and watch it. All right. And then the second class that I teach, we have starting up. Class number 1 starts up Sunday, May 8th, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And we have a bundle pack right now. You get all 3 classes, including Great African Women in History, the Mothers of Civilization. You get all 3 classes for $120. That's a $285 value. If you've taken any of my online classes in the past, email me at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and you'll get a 50% discount. All right. Okay, look, we have to get out of here. And we have the information also about the One Africa Power and Unity Conference as well. You can register for that. If you can't attend in person, you can live stream the conference, both days of the conference. So we have the information at our website also. I'm going to post a link here. And give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on Facebook and YouTube on these broadcasts. And we will broadcast them throughout the day on our social media platforms as well. You can download the iHeartRadio app and listen to the African History Network show because we have a page there on iHeartRadio. There are about 300 of our podcasts archived there. And we're on 10 different audio podcast platforms. So wherever you get your podcast from, search for the African History Network show. We're on Google Podcasts, iTunes, Castbox, FM Player, TuneIn, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio. So a number of different platforms, okay? All right, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. On our Wednesday show, our guest is going to be Professor Kabahai Watakamene, who's going to be one of the presenters at the One Africa Power and Unity Conference. All right, we'll talk to you next time. Peace.
Jeanette Davis is a well-established author with 6 published books. Black Survival in White America from Past History to the Next Century was published in 1995, and it delves into the history of African Americans before slavery up to contemporary times. The Great Divide Between Blacks and Whites was released in 2008, and her autobiography, Black Just Like My Mama, was published in 2010. Soulful Journey, The Business of Beings, was released in December 2021, and her 2 latest books, Echoes from the Heart, Love Throws Poetry, and Master Being Human, were both published in January of 2022. Jeanette Davis' writings delve deeply into the psyche of Black people from ancient to contemporary times. She cuts no corners and leaves no stones unturned in relating truth, letting the chips fall where they may on both African and European doorsteps. Order Jeanette Davis's books today at Amazon.com. Search for Jeanette Davis and get to know her work today.
The work that I do is larger than the fashion industry. It's larger than the art world. And I believe that I was born to bring newness into this world. I'm Kaima McIntyre. I'm 24 years old and I'm an artist. I create everything from paintings to jewelry design, metaphysical jewelry to be specific, and fashion design. The only reason why my prom dress went viral is because people needed it. Within a few days of going viral, Notori Naughton reached out to me and she's like, I saw your dress, can you make me a dress? I was equally as shocked to be asked by a celebrity to design their dress at the age of 17. That's just one person, and the list just continues to go on, to Janet Jackson, to Tyra Banks. It really hits home. That means that the discussion is happening on the grounds in real time.
What does self-care mean to you? To us, it's an opportunity to reconnect with nature. A chance to create something remarkable. At Sage and Elm Apothecary, our handcrafted skincare and household products immerse you in Earth's sweetest nectar, connecting you to nature in a way you never imagined. See for yourself and visit us at sageandelmapothecary.com.
iRedify is a Black-owned digital platform that showcases Black and Brown cultures and people. The books on the platform are written by African American authors, Afro-Caribbean authors, African authors, and so much more. Kids 14 and under can read ebooks, listen to audiobooks, and complete learning activities. Kids can even write in the books digitally. Get unlimited access to everything on the platform for only $8.99 a month at iRedify.com. Sign up for your membership today. Abundant Capital Group is a real estate investment company with over 20 years of experience in real estate. They specialize in two areas of real estate. One, they solve real estate problems with creative financing solutions that give the seller the most money for their property. And two, they show individuals how to get a higher rate of return on their investment capital with real estate note investing. If you are looking to sell or need to sell your property, here is what they provide. Market value offer, even if you have little or no equity. They typically pay all closing costs, which can be thousands of dollars. They close on a date of the seller's choosing, and the seller does not have to be out of the house at the time of closing. They take the property in an as-is condition, and the seller is not required to make any repairs. Give them a call or email them today for a free consultation and see how they can help you with your real estate needs. Call them at 973-475-8488. That's 973-475-8488. Visit their website, abundantcapitalgroup.com. That's abundantcapitalgroup.com. And email them at acg@abundantcapitalgroup.com. Follow them on Instagram and Facebook at Abundant Capital Group.
STEM Forward, helping our community find their place in the emerging fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Join us for our monthly live stream on our website, stemforwardedu.org. Watch,